So I was watching the latest episode of Astro Note. That's a new anime in the spring 2024 season. There is a kind of science fiction storyline playing in the background, but it's basically about a group of unusual people who live together in a kind of lodge. The lodge is very cheap, and it includes breakfasts. One thing that drew me to this anime was the delicious retro 80s, 90s visual style. Not only the visual style, but the opening song, the closing song, everything about it just feels like I'm watching a classic anime from the 80s or the early 90s. The character focused on in this episode is a young boy named Ren. Now, Ren's father is unemployed. We don't know the situation about his mother. Ren's father and Ren live in the lodge together. One morning when Ren is going to school, his eyes seem to be drawn to a girl going to the same school in front of him, and the girl's friends are commenting on the outfit she's wearing, and Ren is looking towards her with some very serious interest. Does he have romantic feelings for her? Does he have a crush on her? Is that what this episode is going to be about? This kind of first love storyline? Later at the lodge, Ren's dad comes home with a big bag of gyoza, and he finds Ren in the room they share, quickly stashing a magazine away in a brown paper envelope. After talking with some of the other tenants, it's revealed that at a beach trip, Ren was looking at one girl in particular, maybe with the serious interest I mentioned before. Is this a crush? And what kind of magazine is it? Meanwhile, Ren is preparing to take a bath, and he goes to the shared bathroom that everyone uses, but he finds that it is already occupied by one of the female tenants. She is someone who works, I guess, part-time as an idol performer, and we find Ren looking at her pile of clothing. What's up here? Ren's dad convinces some of the other tenants to search the room together. They find the brown paper envelope and they find out what's inside of it. It is a magazine with lots of pictures of cute girls and also idols. They thought it might be porn, so the dad is a little relieved but also a little disappointed. At the same time, Ren is reaching with a lot of curiosity towards the pile of clothing, with the lingerie sitting provocatively on top. Suddenly, the door to the bath slides open and the idol performer steps out and catches Ren in the act of reaching for her clothes. The tenants all gather in one of the main rooms, and the father apologizes profusely for his son. He explains that his son has become interested in girls and that they found a magazine with girly pictures and pictures of idols in it, and that must be what this is all about. Ren, however, is very upset, and he says he wasn't trying to steal her underwear. He's not an underwear thief. He just wanted to try wearing a skirt, and that was the first time he had a chance to get a hold of one. The idol performer's anger dissipates, and she's actually a little flattered that he's interested in her clothing, and she happily agrees to let him borrow a skirt whenever he wants. His dad reluctantly agrees, as long as Ren only wears it in the lodge and not outside. The idol performer helps Ren put on one of her skirts, and he excitedly parades it around the room. The next morning, when he's going to school, Ren encounters the same girl with her friends again. This time, we know what he's been staring at all along. It is girls' clothing. And we finish the episode with Ren very happy that he's been able to achieve his dream and move on to a new stage of his life with some acceptance from the people close to him. How should we take this development? What does this mean in the overall storyline? Is there a message here that the writers are trying to express? There are cases in a lot of anime where characters have to cross-dress for a variety of reasons. For example, in Seventh Time Loop, the princess-to-be cross-dressed because she wanted to train as a soldier. In Komi Can't Communicate, Hito dressed as a maid for his school's cultural festival. In Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, Zenitsu dressed as a girl so that they could infiltrate the red light district. In Shangri-La Frontier, Oikatsu is a female character, a female avatar played by a boy, and this is quite common in video games in general. Girls play boys, boys play girls. Online, be whatever you want. In ReZero, there's a character named Felix Argyle who is male but prefers to wear female clothing. In Made in Abyss, Marulk is a boy but is forced to wear women's clothing by his master Ozen, although he might not mind this. And in The Weakest Tamer, The main character goes by the name Ivy and disguises herself as a boy, mainly to protect herself as she travels through the countryside. In most cases of cross-dressing I've seen in anime, there is a difference between the motivations of male characters and female characters. Male characters typically cross-dress for comedy purposes or to aid in accomplishing a mission. Female characters cross-dress for a lot of reasons. Female characters cross-dress to protect themselves from danger or to break through barriers and get access to things that men are allowed to do, but women are prohibited from doing in the world of that anime. Looking at Japanese culture more widely, we can see kabuki. In kabuki, traditionally, female roles are played by male performers. Even today, women do not perform in kabuki. We still have male actors playing female characters. Possibly a reaction against this is takarazuka, which is a type of performance in Japan where women play all of the roles, including the male ones. The takarazuka performers train a lot so they can achieve a more masculine voice and a more masculine posture and body language. With Visual Kei, members of the band dress very extravagantly in gothic clothing, sometimes cross-dressing as women. In Western culture, there are also cases of cross-dressing. We can see in the case of Bugs Bunny, it's done for comedic purposes and to achieve a certain objective. In the case of Mulan, it's so that she can break barriers and enter the man's world and become a soldier. And in Blue Eye Samurai, it's both to break barriers and gain access to the man's world and to protect the protagonist by hiding that she's a woman. So what does all this mean for Astro Note and for Ren? Is there a message here? I personally don't think so. I don't think there's anything deeper. There's no feeling of woke culture. Ren is a young boy. He's curious about women's clothing. He's curious about wearing a skirt. He wants to try that. I don't get the feeling there's any sexuality included. I don't think this is gender expression or gender identity. Now, of course, it could have a deeper meaning, but there's nothing in the show that hints at that. Of course, I'll have to keep watching to see if anything further develops. So far, I'm really enjoying Astro Note, but this episode raised a few questions in my mind and made me look at Japanese culture a little more closely. I recommend watching Astro Note, especially if you want an 80s vibe, a nostalgic retro visual style. The story is still developing, the characters are quirky and unusual, and you might enjoy it. Check out Astro Note. Give it a chance.